Hey there, plant lovers, garden warriors, soil dreamers. Whether you're growing tomatoes on a sunny balcony, reviving a struggling monstera in your living room, or crafting the perfect cactus mix for your rare collection, there's one natural solution that quietly outperforms chemical fertilizers, composts, and potting blends. It's called worm casting, or as many gardeners now call it, black gold. But this isn't just hype. This is one of the most effective, affordable, and sustainable tools in gardening, and today I'll show you why. We're diving deep into the science and stories behind worm castings, how they work, why they're so powerful, and most importantly, how to use them effectively for everything from vegetables and houseplants to Hoyas, succulents, and rare tropicals. This isn't just a fertilizer, it's a living ecosystem in a handful of soil. And by the end of this episode, you'll not only understand it, you'll want to get your hands dirty with it. So grab a cup of tea or your watering can. Let's get growing. Did you know the biology behind worm castings? Let's pause and appreciate what's really happening when you use worm castings in your soil. It's more than just adding nutrients. You're bringing an entire ecosystem to life right beneath your feet. So, what makes worm castings biologically special? First, beneficial microbes. Every gram of worm castings can contain billions of beneficial bacteria and fungi. These tiny organisms help decompose organic matter in the soil, convert nutrients into plant-available forms, and protect plant roots from harmful pathogens. They work symbiotically with plants, like a microscopic support system. Second, plant growth regulators. Worm castings naturally contain substances like auxins, gibberellins, and cytokinins. These are the same growth hormones plants produce on their own, but in worm castings, they come in just the right amounts to gently stimulate healthy growth without overstimulation. Third, chitinase-producing microbes. Chitinase is an enzyme that breaks down the cell walls of fungi, insect larvae, and some nematodes. Castings boost a plant's immune system by encouraging microbes that naturally fight off. Fourth, humic acids. Worm castings are rich in humic acids, which improve soil structure, enhance water retention, buffer pH, and stimulate root development. They help unlock bound nutrients in the soil, making them accessible to plants. What the research shows. A study published in Applied Soil Ecology found that using worm castings increased microbial biomass in soil by up to 300% within 2 weeks. Trials in greenhouse tomatoes showed a 25 to 35% yield increase when just 10% worm castings were added to potting media. In turf management trials, worm casting application led to deeper root zones and visibly reduced fungal diseases on grass. Tips. The takeaway. Worm castings don't just feed your plants, they activate your soil. They're alive, dynamic, and intelligent in how they release nutrients. And they turn your garden from a passive container into a thriving, cooperative underground world.
Now we talk about how to use worm castings from basic to advanced. Let's begin by saying this. There's no one-size-fits-all method for gardening, and that's what makes worm castings so incredible. They're flexible, adaptable, and work across a wide range of conditions. Whether you're growing in clay, sandy soil, or store-bought mixes, adding worm castings simply makes everything better. Now let's get practical. How can you use worm castings to get the most benefit? For vegetables, mix 10 to 20% castings into your soil or raised bed before planting. Side dress each plant with a handful every 3 to 4 weeks. Brew worm tea and water every 7-14 days to supercharge root zones. For houseplants, top dress 1-2 tablespoons monthly for small to medium pots. Mix 10 to 15% worm castings into potting mix when repotting. Foliar spray or soil drench with worm tea every 2 weeks. Pro tips, mix with charcoal for added porosity and microbial support. Spray worm tea in early morning or late afternoon to avoid leaf burn. For outdoor flowers and shrubs, blend 10% castings into the planting area. Reapply around the drip line every season. Use worm tea during bloom to extend flowering time. For lawns, spread 1 4-inch layer over the grass in spring, water in well, no burning, just greener, fuller lawns. Worm tea, liquid gold, 1 cup worm castings, plus 1 gallon dechlorinated water, stir or aerate for 12 to 24 hours, use within 24 hours. Seasonal tips. Spring, work castings into soil for new plantings. Summer, use worm tea during flowering or fruiting. Fall, apply lightly to help plants store energy. Winter, use diluted tea monthly for indoor plants to support microbial life.
About advanced uses. Custom soil mixes for specific plants. This is where worm castings really shine. You can use them to elevate your soil mix game, especially for picky or rare plants. Cactus and succulent mix 1 part pumice or perlite, 1 part cocoa coir, or cactus mix 1-2 part worm castings. Optional, crushed charcoal, tropical houseplant mix 1 part cocoa coir, 1 part orchid bark, 1 part perlite, 1-2 part worm castings. Optional, mycorrhizal fungi or slow release fertilizer, Hoya and rare aroids mix 1 part cocoa chips, 1 part perlite, 1 part orchid bark, 1/4 part worm castings. Optional, crushed eggshells for calcium orchids. Add a spoonful of castings to orchid bark, mixed with worm tea every 2 weeks. Why add worm castings instead of perlite or vermiculite? They don't replace aerating materials, but they do something better. They activate your soil. In a study by a horticulture team in British Columbia, Hoyas grown in soil mixes with 25% worm castings had thicker leaves and flowered 20 days earlier. Don't just grow plants, grow your soil. Let's zoom out. You're not just growing a plant, you're cultivating an entire ecosystem. And worm castings are the keystone. They bring balance, biodiversity, resilience, and long-term health to your soil. They're natural, gentle, and safe for children, pets, pollinators, and the planet. So if you take one thing from today's episode, let it be this. Start small, but start. Add a handful of worm castings to your next potting mix. Brew your first batch of worm tea. Observe, feel, let the plants show you, because the more we return to nature, the more it returns to us. Like this episode, follow, rate, and share it with your garden-loving friends. Want more? Subscribe for weekly tips on organic growing, plant care, and soil magic. Until next time, keep your hands dirty and your garden happy. Frequently asked questions. Your top worm casting concerns answered. Even experienced gardeners have questions when it comes to worm castings. In this chapter, we'll cover the most common questions we get from plant lovers in the US and Canada and break down the answers in simple, helpful language. Question 1. Can worm castings replace all my fertilizers? Worm castings are one of the most complete organic fertilizers available, but they work best when used as part of a holistic approach. You can absolutely grow many plants using only worm castings, especially herbs, leafy greens, and indoor plants. But for heavy feeders, like tomatoes or roses, supplementing with compost or organic amendments can help sustain growth through the whole season. Question 2. How much worm casting should I use per plant? For small houseplants, 1-2 tablespoons per month is plenty. For outdoor beds or vegetable gardens, mix in 10 to 20% of your total soil volume. More isn't always better because castings are so nutrient dense, even a little goes a long way. Question 3. Do worm castings smell bad? Not at all. High quality worm castings smell like fresh forest soil, earthy and clean. If your bag of castings smells sour or rotten, it may have gone anaerobic or been poorly stored. Question 4. Can I make my own worm castings at home? Yes, it's called vermicomposting, and it's easier than you think. All you need is a bin, some red wigglers, food scraps, and patience. You can harvest your own castings in as little as 3 to 6 months. Perfect for indoor composting in apartments too. Question 5. Is worm tea the same as compost tea? Not exactly. Compost tea is brewed from general compost, which can vary in microbial content. Worm tea is made specifically from worm castings and usually contains a more consistent range of beneficial microbes. Both are excellent, but worm tea tends to be gentler and more targeted. Question 6. Can I overuse worm castings? Technically, no, it won't burn your plants like synthetic fertilizer, but adding too much can make soil too rich, heavy, or moisture retentive, especially for cacti or succulents. Stick with 10-20% in mixes unless you're growing leafy greens or fast crops. Question 7. How long do worm castings last in soil? The microbial activity and nutrient release can last for 2 to 3 months in active soil. Some effects, like improved soil structure and water retention, last even longer. Reapply as needed or refresh your mix seasonally. Question 8. Do worm castings work in hydroponics? Not directly, since castings need soil microbes and structure to function well. However, diluted worm tea can sometimes be added to hydroponic systems to boost microbial activity. Question 9. Can worm castings kill pests? They don't kill pests like an insecticide, but they support healthier plants that naturally resist pests. Plus, microbes like chitinase producers can reduce issues like fungus gnats, root rot, or damping off. Question 10. Can I use worm castings all year round? Yes. In spring, use it to kickstart plant growth. In summer, support blooming and fruiting. In fall, help plants store energy. In winter, use it indoors or in greenhouses for a steady supply of nutrients and microbes. Worm castings are one of those rare tools in gardening that are simple yet incredibly powerful. The more you understand how to use them, the more confident and successful you'll be. Let's talk about common mistakes beginners make and how to avoid them. Even though worm castings are incredibly forgiving and easy to use, there are a few missteps that many beginners make. These don't cause damage per se, but they often prevent gardeners from getting the full benefits of this incredible organic material. Let's break down the most common mistakes and how you can steer clear of them. Mistake 1. Using too much worm castings are concentrated. Some people assume more is better and dump handfuls into their pots or garden beds. The result? Soil that's too dense, holds too much moisture, or gets too nutrient-rich for sensitive plants like cacti or succulents. What to do instead? Stick with 10-20% worm castings in any soil mix. For top dressing, a thin layer is enough. Think of it like a multivitamin, not a full meal. Mistake 2. Not mixing properly. Some gardeners just sprinkle worm castings on the soil and forget about it. While top dressing works, worm castings are more effective when they're mixed into the root zone. What to do instead? When repotting or planting, blend the castings evenly through the soil. For existing plants, water well after top dressing so the nutrients seep downward. Mistake 3. Brewing dead worm tea. Leaving worm tea for days in a bottle or using chlorinated water can kill the very microbes that make it effective. What to do instead? Always brew worm tea with dechlorinated water. Let tap water sit for 24 hours or use filtered. Use the tea within 24 hours of brewing and stir or aerate as it steeps. Mistake 4. Expecting instant results. Worm castings improve soil health over time. They're not synthetic fertilizers, so they don't deliver flashy overnight results. What to do instead? Be patient. You'll notice stronger roots, fewer pest problems, deeper green leaves, and better blooms over weeks, not days. Mistake 5. Storing castings incorrectly. Some gardeners leave worm castings in sealed plastic bags or containers with no airflow. This can lead to anaerobic, bad bacteria taking over. What to do instead? Store worm castings in breathable containers like fabric bags or cardboard boxes. Keep them cool, dark, and slightly moist, just like compost. Worm castings are one of the most beginner-friendly tools in gardening, but like anything natural, they respond best to thoughtful, informed use. With a few simple tweaks, you'll unlock their full potential, and so will your plants. Congratulations! You now know more about worm castings than 99% of gardeners out there. You understand what they are, how they work, how to apply them, and how to avoid the common pitfalls. But here's the most important takeaway. You don't need a perfect garden, you just need living soil. Whether you're growing food for your family, decorating a windowsill, or turning your backyard into a sanctuary, worm castings help you reconnect with nature in the most rewarding way possible. They make gardening less stressful, more successful, and infinitely more satisfying. So if today's episode brought you value, helped you grow a little deeper, or simply sparked curiosity, please like, follow, and subscribe. That small action helps us keep making more helpful, honest, and hopeful gardening content just like this. And if you want more, subscribe to our newsletter. We share weekly tips on organic gardening, DIY soil mixes, plant care secrets, and exclusive offers you won't find anywhere else. And just one more thing, if you live near Vancouver or the Lower Mainland, you're warmly invited to visit us at DH Garden Centre. We carry high-quality organic worm castings and a wide range of plant care products. Too far away? No worries. You can also order from our online store and have it shipped right to your door. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the underground magic of worm castings. Until next time, keep your hands dirty, your heart open, and your plants thriving.